Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Sewing one again, and I couldn't find any nice pictures online of what I wanted to make. I had something in my head, and of course I had seen it before, but I just couldn't find pictures. So I just made my fabulous drawing to explain what I want to make. It will be a sweater or a dress, a jumper dress, whatever you like. You can make it shorter or longer, how you want it. I think I will make it a dress, but I'm not sure yet. So I draw a dress. It's pretty simple and self-explanatory. I make it a bit wide because of my fabric. I show you later on. So it's almost the basic pattern with some just little adjustments. Long sleeves, of course. I want to put pockets on the bottom. When it's a dress, it's around hip size, hip height. When it's a jumper, a little bit higher. And you see, I want a hood on it, and underneath the hood or in between the hood I make a collar. And you know I don't like a collar that's really tight around my neck, so I make a off-standing collar, and I put the hood in between. So I show you how we're making it. It looks very nice when you have it like that. It's more of a layered look, and I like that very much. So we put a hood, of course, long sleeves, and I have this fabric. It is a cotton, and it has, wait, I lay it flat and it's better to see. It has a very nice pattern on it. Can you see? Yes, you can see now for the shadows. And it's rather heavy fabric. The former jumper was very light fabric. This is very heavy, so I'm going from one extreme to the other. So that's why I'm not sure if I'm gonna make a dress out of it, because maybe when it's too heavy, then it doesn't feel nice when it's a long dress. So then I have to go back to a jumper, but I'll see when I'm making it. But it's a very nice fabric. I washed it before because cotton can shrink very much, and when you wash it, when you've made it, then it won't fit you anymore. So I washed it beforehand, and before I did, I searched the edges. It looks very strange, but I do that because it will fray very much if you don't do that and you wash it in a washing machine. And half of your fabric will go out, and your whole washing machine will be full of this cotton things everywhere. So when you wash it, serge or zigzag the edges of your fabric first. So this will be my fabric, and on the edge of the pockets, and maybe also on the sleeves, I don't think for the bottom, but the sleeves maybe, I will put this board cotton, board fabric that I already showed in my former video that I didn't use it. Now I want to use it because I think this really matches the kind of fabric I have now. It's about the same weight of it, so it goes very nice together. So I put that for detail on the pockets and on the sleeves. Anything else to say? No, what we're gonna use is almost the same basic pattern as I made in my former video. So if you haven't seen that, go back to that video first and make the basic pattern. You can use it all the time from now on. So it's not only for this video, but it's for all the upcoming videos. We're always starting with the basic pattern, and then you go over to what you want to make with adjustments and things that you like to make different. So we go back to our basic pattern, and because the adjustments that I have to do are just in the width and in the height of the armhole, I'm not gonna make a total new pattern. So I take just my pattern, I put it on my fabric, and then with pins I mark down what the adjustments are. So then it's not that difficult. You don't have to draw a whole new pattern if you already have your basic pattern from the former video. Otherwise, go back to the video of last week and make your basic pattern, and then you are good to go. For the sleeves, I don't make the armhole. I'll just make the straight line from the shoulder down. And it is also to save some fabric, because when I want to make a dress out of it, I have just enough. So when you make your sleeve like this, you save some money. I see now that I didn't mark the middle right. But the top will be 44 centimeters for me. That is when you measure around your upper arm how wide you want it to be. If you have thicker arms, maybe you want some more. If you have thinner arms, maybe less. And then measure around your wrist how wide you want your sleeve down there. And the length for me when I make my sleeves straight is 40 centimeters. And then I make the hood. You can trace it from a hood you have, but it's not very difficult to do. I measure always around my head from my forehead to my neck, and then I had 56 centimeters, and I want all around, oh that's not 44 of course, it's half, it's 22. How much I want it around my neck, and then of course half of it because you have the left and the right side of the hood. So this is 22, and this is just a straight line. And of course you got this 2 times because it's the left and the right of the hood. And make sure you have enough seam allowance here, because maybe you want to put make an how's it called, where you can put a string in so that you can tie it on. Make sure you have enough seam allowance here. So this is the pattern for your hood. And then I already put the fabric, the patterns on the fabric for the front and the back. And it's really a heavy fabric, so I must really be careful that it doesn't slide off my table on the ground. That already happened 2 times. As you see, I fold it differently than when you get it from the fabric store, and that is because then I have two sides where I can lay it on the fold. I have here my one piece on the fold, and the other fold I have here, I can put the back piece on the fold. So that's very easy when you fold your fabric like this. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make the neckline wider, because I want that to be 22 and that in half is 10 and a half, 11 something somewhat. So I pin that down and I make this really more wide, more open. And I make the shoulder straight. So the shoulder goes straight from the armhole and from the side straight up. And I always like to pin that down immediately, because otherwise I start cutting and then I forget. So I also must have pins with a bright color so that I see where the pin is. Like that. So I have my wet there. Pin it down to the armhole. And I also want to add to the chest, the waist and the hip, I want to add 2 centimeters. So it gets wider also. And then include your seam allowance. So from here I go to 3 centimeters extra, and that means that I have to put this up also more, because this must be a straight line. Then I also put 3 extra on the waist, or maybe you don't even want a waist, you just go straight down. You can do that too, especially when you have such a heavy fabric. Then you don't really need a waistline. And cinched in waist, because it's such a thick fabric, it doesn't even go in a curve like that. So you can do just straight down, that will be okay too. So this is for the front. We do the same for the back on this side. And when I've done that, I come back to show you how I pin and cut the sleeves and the hood. So now I fold it again the normal way, and then I see that I don't have enough fabric, so I must make a puzzle out of it, how I can do this and how I can match the fabric to my pattern. Maybe just make another fold and see if I have enough then. I hope so. This can be for the sleeve. And then I must see if I can take the hood out of it. Yes, just enough. Okay, very happy with this. So we're gonna cut out this too, and then we're gonna sew. And what I do now, I see this is nice because I can put this on the fold here, so that means that I don't have a seam on top of my head. The seam just begins here in the curve, and that's a really nice coincidence that I have now, so that I can just put this on the fold. And while cutting this, I thought I had this really nice silky material, and I think I'm going to cut the hood once again for the lining, and then I have this really nice silk lining in my hood, so I'm going to cut this one more time for the lining. So what we're going to do now, it's hard to see with all this white, I hope you understand. We're going to sew the shoulder seams. So white sides together, the front and the back, with the shoulders touching, of course. And when you've done that, you can open it up, and then you take your sleeve and mark your sleeve where the middle is. You just put a pin where the middle of your sleeve is, and place that pin just where your seam is you just made, and then you sew your sleeve seam, your shoulder seam of the sleeve. You do that on both sides, and when you've done that, you can put the front and the back part together again, together with the sleeve, and you can sew your whole underarm, sleeve, and your whole side seam from left and right. So then you almost have the whole jumper dress together. So we're going to do that now. And as usual, I use my serger for that, but you can certainly do that with your normal sewing machine with zigzags or stretch stitch and your stitch mode, because you must be sure that your fabric won't be stretched out by your machine. So make sure you use your stretching mode on your sewing machine. And if you have such a heavy fabric as I have, feel if you need to put a strengthening band on top of your seams, because when you have such a heavy fabric, it can stretch out when you wear it. And the next step, when I've sewn my sleeves on, I'm gonna throw it over me. Then I don't have to try it on because there are not enough seams, but I throw it over me to see if it goes down, it hangs down too much. And then what I do, I take a non-stretchy tape or ribbon, and I sew that along the seams that I've made. So it's the shoulder seams and these arm seams, sleeve seams, because otherwise it will hang down too much, and then it feels heavy, and also your sweater gets way more long than it used to be. So try out how it is for you. And yes, I decided to reinforce the shoulder seams because they're really gonna hang out already. So I took this ribbon that I used for my former jumper too, and it works very well. So what I do is I put it on the seam, and then I put my sewing machine on a zigzag stitch. I have the paint still on my finger, sorry for that. I put my sewing machine on a zigzag stitch, and then I'm gonna zigzag this ribbon just over the seam. Maybe you ask, why should I use a zigzag stitch or stretch stitch then anyway? Well, that is because when the fabric is stretchy, you should use also a stretchy stitch, because otherwise when the fabric would stretch a bit out, your stitch will break, and then your seam will break, of course. So you always use a stretch stitch on a stretch fabric. But if you don't want to stretch the seam out, so because then it's hanging out, then you should just use a reinforcement ribbon to give it strength to the seam, and then the seam doesn't stretch anymore, but that's exactly what you want. But your stitching should be a straight a zigzag stitch, because it needs some stretch, because otherwise it will break. I sewn all the side seams, the sleeve seams, and this is the moment that you can try it on. And I did that, and the funny thing with fabric is my jumper from last week was a very thin fabric, very light, and I already said it's that light that you feel as if you are wearing nothing, because it's very lightweight, that fabric. This is the contrary. This is a very heavy fabric, and I cut it on the length that it would reach my knees to have it as a jumper dress. But this fabric is so heavy that when you pull it up, you put it up. For now it is 25 centimeters too long, so I have to cut off about this piece, I think, to get it the right length. And it's just because the fabric stretches out when you hold it on top of you or when you put it on. And that's the funny thing with fabrics, it's just depending on what fabric you have, how your garment will be. And that's why you always should check your measurements at first, and always try it on in the process to see if it's the way you want it to be. And so I have to cut off a very large piece, and that's nice, because I thought I didn't have enough fabric. Now I have a lot of fabric left. So this is okay, it fits me nicely except for the length, so we're gonna put this aside. And then we're gonna go on with the hood. And what we'll do, let's check my pins, yes. What we're gonna do is we're gonna sew the back seam of the hood, of the outer part and of the lining. So that's the seam that goes here around, and that has part of it is on the fold. So we're gonna sew that down, and then this. And when we've done that, then we put them into each other, right sides together. So you put the seam in between, or the fabric in between the lining part, and then you're gonna sew this whole front seam. So that's all the way around from one side to the other. And then we'll come back for the next step. So now what you do is you mark where the middle is of your hood and the middle of your sweater, the mid-back of your sweater. And then you're going to pin the hood all the way around your neck hole of your sweater. So I started already a bit. You just pin it around, and the easiest is to sew this all around first, and then we're gonna sew on the collar. And I cut some of the boards fabric. I still don't know what it's called, but it's this knit stripe fabric. It's not stripe, but it's a knit stripe. And I cut off 46 centimeters in a circle. That means 46 centimeters, and I made a circle. I sewed it down, and it's 10 centimeters wide. And what you do is you first you sew it to a circle, and then you fold it together. And this seam you put again on top of the collar on the mid back, and you pin and sew it then also all the way around the whole head opening, neck opening. So that's what you do, but I think first it's easiest to sew first the hood on, and then on top of that your collar, because otherwise you have a chance that your hood is falling in between, out of between, and then you have to seam rip everything again and start all over. So first pin this and sew, then this on top of it all the way around and sew that, and then I'll come back for the next step. and I pinned it down all the way around, but I left a piece open in the mid front because I think that looks nicer when the hood is not all through the middle. So I'm just gonna sew this down, and then the board is going over this piece too. Should have something like this. The hood is nicely in between the jumper and the collar, and when you open it, it looks very nice and chic like this. I was thinking of finishing this inner part. It's the three pieces of the hood, the jumper and the collar together, to finish it off with a satin ribbon around it, like a sort of bias tape. But I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that. I think I'll just zigzag this and make it nice and clean, and I think that will be fine too. So I think I'm gonna finish it like that. Then I cut my pockets, and I made them 15 by 17, and the same fabric as I used for the collar I used for the top of the pockets. Okay, back again, because I have change of plans. I had pinned on my pockets where I thought I wanted them to be, but I really didn't like it. I didn't like this top part, the extra fabric. It looked a bit childish, and it is a very classy dress, and this was just not doing it. And because I had to cut off 25 centimeters from the bottom, I suddenly had enough fabric to cut some new pockets, and also I wanted bigger pockets because also these were too small, I thought. So from the part that I cut off from the bottom, I cut out 2 new pockets. I'm gonna pin them first on to see if these are okay and if I like them like this. I still have the other one on, but well, I'm not sure. I'm gonna pin them and see if this is okay, and then I'm gonna sew this all by hand. Because I think that's best with this fabric. And also I pinned one sleeve with the hem inside and the other one with the sleeve with the hem outside, and I like this one very much. You have now like a sort of cuff as the other jumper, the former jumper had, but this is just the hem folded to the outside, and it looks very nice. So I'm gonna sew this also by hand, so we're not using the sewing machine anymore. Gonna hem these 2 sleeves. I can hem the bottom. I'm gonna do them to the inside, of course, because I don't think that would look nice. And then I hope these new pockets will be to my pleasure, because the other ones really weren't doing it for me. So I'm gonna pin this down and I show you a little clip of the hand sewing, and then this is finished. And the final result, the dress. It's a very warm, nice, thick dress. It is very heavy, the material, and I told you I wasn't sure if I made a dress or a sweater out of it because of the weight, but it feels very nice as a dress because you have really a blanket on like this, and I think it looks really nice. I've been really struggling with these pockets because I didn't like how it turned out, the first one, with the top board on top of it. I didn't like it. I made them different. I made them bigger, I made them smaller, I made them of the same silky material as the lining of my hoodie. I couldn't decide what was nice because I didn't like it all, and I made this already bigger and smaller, different material, different placement. I made them like this in an angle, but I finally took this and I thought, well, I ask you any suggestions what to do with these pockets, but now I have it on totally finished. I like it how it is now, and I'm happy with the pockets. I like it. They're nice and big to put my handkerchief in. I paired it with my blue and my black purse, black over-knee boots, and I think it looks really nice. I like the hood. The collar is nice and warm, not too tight, that I don't like, and I'm very happy with the result, how it turned out. And it's nice and warm, and I'm not even wearing tights underneath it, but it feels like a blanket. So this is totally different from the jumper, the white jumper that I made with a very thin, very fragile fabric. This is a fine, thick knit, and I like this very much. So very happy with the result. Okay, this is finished. I heard from people that were already buying fabric for spring, and I was rather later starting with the winter fall season. So I had some spring things lying down to do, but there wasn't time anymore. And now I hear that I already have to jump over to spring because people are already buying the fabrics for spring. So I have certainly one more winter project I want to make, because I want to make the black cape that I asked you for in the beginning of the season, what I would make: the camel coat, the black cape, or the white dress. Well, the white dress we can do for summer or for spring, but I certainly want to make the black cape, so that will be one of the next videos. And I think then we're going to jump over to spring and see what we can make for nice dresses, blouses. I don't know, I have a lot of fabrics already laying down ready for me, and most of it was for dresses because I'm really a dress girl. But if you have any suggestions what you like for spring or for summer, then let me know, and I'll make something else than all the dresses that I already make. Some time ago I posted a video about a thrift haul that I did, in which I bought all white things, and it was really nice. And I went to the thrift store some time ago, and I already, again, I found some really nice white pieces, so I'm all of the white you see. So I want to do something with that. I'm not sure yet what I want to make out of it, so I have to think, but that will be an upcoming video too. Some thrift clips, and then certainly some spring inspired things will be coming up soon. I'm not sure how soon, but they will be there. I upload every Monday, at least I try to upload every Monday. Because of my health I cannot always make it, but I only had to skip one, so I'm very proud of myself. But please subscribe if you like my videos. Every week I try to give a new nice project with patterns to make, that you can all do from nothing to the final project. I'll teach you how to make the pattern, how to sew it, what kind of fabric you should use and why you should use it, so you get the whole package. So if you are a beginner, no problem, this is for beginners too, but also for more experienced or very experienced people, because I let you see all the tips and tricks that I learned in the years, how you can make difficult things very easy, and then sewing will be just a nice thing to do. And so if you're a beginner or experienced, you're very welcome here, and please subscribe, and I'll give you a new video every week. And if you have any suggestions, please leave them down below, and I'll see what I can do for you and what I can make. So I hope you like this video. I'm happy with the result. I like it very much, and I like the hood. I'll put it on and you can see how it looks. Very nice. And I like the silk that I put in. It feels very soft on the head. So thank you so much for watching this week, and I'll see you next week with a new video. And well, have fun this week. Bye, thanks for watching.